the third channel, take off the third channel, take off the third channel, take off the third channel, the third channel, it's still running. Stop it, please, for God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to, please stop it now, turn it off, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it.
Hey everyone, this is Dave Brown with my best friend, Brian Emmenheiser, aka South Jersey Jason. We want to welcome you to our first podcast episode of the Third Channel, Home of Horror. You can find us on Facebook, and we are looking to do this in podcast format and a YouTube channel. This first episode to break the ice with you guys is you choose, we view, and review. It's pretty much up to you guys to choose a film that we will put in a poll format on Facebook. This month we decided to choose Universal Monsters because we felt that it would be a great way to start off in eras and build our way up through today, more or less. And these are the movies that pretty much grounded what we know of today in horror. And you chose Creature from the Black Lagoon, which, again, Brian, I was shocked as much as you were, I think, when they chose this, because I thought for sure it was either going to be Dracula or Frankenstein.
Yeah, they're usually the go-to when you think of Universal, like the first two go-tos, and then followed by the Mummy and the Wolfman.
Right. And you know what? I'm glad they did, because it goes to show you that the people that are following us aren't cut from that typical cloth of, horror. So it was a nice change. We got to see it for free on Tubi, where you can actually see it also if you don't mind commercials, along with the other Universal monsters that are showing on Tubi. I think for a while now. I think they're up there throughout the month of October. So yeah, we reviewed and we viewed and we reviewed. So we're happy to say that we enjoyed it, and thanks for picking that one.
Science couldn't explain it, but there it was, alive in the deep, deep waters of the Amazon. A throwback to a creature that had existed 100 million years ago, immensely strong and destructive. A woman's beauty, the bait that brought it out of its lair. See underwater thrills never photographed before. See titanic underwater battles never dreamed of before in this most terrifying of the science fiction adventures.
Actually, who got me into horror was a huge fan of Frankenstein. So he's the one that kicked off my love for horror movies, which in today's standards is really soft and can't be in comparison to those movies back then. But in the end, you guys chose, and drum roll please, Brian, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, which was very surprising, because usually the go-to is either Dracula or Frankenstein, and
That's
Creature.
what I thought. I mean, yeah. I'm very partial to The Invisible Man. For some reason, there was something about that, and I think it was cutting edge for the time for that whole invisible. That would have been the early CGI if you think about it. But I loved his mind changing as the serum that he injected himself with took over his body. I thought that was pretty cool.
And here's a little known fact. Well, maybe it's not a little known fact for the Invisible Man. The love interest, I can't think of her name offhand. She was the old Rose in Titanic.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, well, she's been around. Wow.
Yeah.
If you think about the errors and the dates, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
So, Brian, before we start, I think we should plug some of our sponsors. I mean, it'd be pretty cool to give kudos to the ones who've actually let us use their names for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you
And
want to start off with the sponsors?
yeah, Ryan Schaefer, who is the creator of Horror Express Studios. I've known Ryan for a couple years now. The man creates and sculpts a lot of his own horror movie props. If you're into cosplaying, I have two of his knives, one from Halloween, the original, and 2018. He does clean versions, he does bloody versions, but he doesn't stop there. I think he created a lot of, if not all, the props for that new Bloody Valentine fan film,
Very nice.
Valentine's Bluff. Yeah, I think he was one of the large creators for that fan film for their
Nice.
their props. So yeah, if you are in the need of any type of cool props based on a horror theme, he'll custom do your job. But he offers quite an array, either for cosplay or if you just want to put something up this on display in your entertainment room. So Ryan, thank you so much for being a part of the third channel. We appreciate it.
All right, and our next sponsor is J3 Jason Costumes. If you want to look like you stepped off the set of a Friday 13th movie like me, then reach out to Jim from J3 Jason Costumes. You can find him on Facebook at J3 Jason Costumes and on IG at J3 Costumes. He also has a website, j3costumes.bigcartel.com. I've known Jim for almost about just as long as I've known you. I met him through his Etsy shop, and then he's now my sponsor, and he's made me 7 costumes, and we have some more in store for 2023. The one thing about Jim that separates him from the others, his costumes will not put a hole in your pocket. So if you're looking to look near exact as Kane Hodder or CJ, Steve Dash, Richard Brooker, Ted White, Derek Mears, then hit up Jim. And actually, on the day of this recording, it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Jim.
Nice.
So
Happy
Dave,
birthday.
what
Yeah.
was your first recollection of watching Creature?
Uh, I hadn't watched it in so long. It had been about 15, 20 years. And um, I just think when it starts off, and you get the vibe, it's just it's a dark it's a dark movie, but there's a lot of light because it's all filmed in that swampy area. So
Hmm.
there's a feeling of the fear there, but at the same time, you're in this really cool lit swamp area, which I think a lot of it was filmed in Florida, if I remember reading
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah. A lot of the Universal monster movies, I believe, were filmed, like the majority of them were filmed in Los Angeles. But Creature was filmed in Florida. And the one thing I love about like the trailers from this era,
Oh yeah.
they were great. They don't give away the entire movie,
No,
and it's almost
no.
like a news report per se.
Yeah.
The
They,
one,
they really they knew how to build up the suspense more so
yeah,
without in your face, like,
yeah,
the titles themselves were not so ambiguous. I mean, they were pretty much straightforward. The
right,
creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean,
yeah.
you can't get any more straightforward than that.
Yeah,
But
and
you
my
know,
first recollection when I was in grade school, I remember I think I was third or fourth grade, and AMC they would do their Monster Vision, which is or Fear Fest or whatever they called it Monster Vision back then, I believe, but they played the classics. They didn't, and it wasn't always like the same thing all throughout the day. It was different stuff. So that's how I was introduced to all the classic Universal monster movies, and I wish they would still do that.
I think with Creature for me, trying to go back because I am up there and remembering when I actually saw it. My father, I mean, it actually came back to theater. It came back to theater in 3D, and this was in the 80s. And I remember going to the theater to see it with my dad because he was of course excited because it came back.
yeah.
And I think if I could remember correctly, it was my first 3D movie that I
How
ever
do
saw.
you remember like how were the effects?
Um, they were good. I mean, if you watch that film without 3D, there's a lot of setup to make it look like
Yes.
3D. I mean, the
Yeah.
creature's hands
Yeah.
and this, you know, I think they wasn't it a poisoning or they some type of liquid they were shooting out to you know gas it or
Yeah.
tranquilize it. I remember seeing that. So a lot of that was set up. I felt even before I think they expected to put it into 3D.
Well, no, it
Um,
was actually originally shot in 3D.
was
So
it?
it
I
was,
didn't.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Uh,
when it came back to theaters, you saw it in 3D. So, and that was at the height of like the 3D fad during that time. I think William Castle did a lot with like the 3D, and he would rig the movie theaters like for
oh
what
yeah.
was that movie? The Tingler. I think it's called The Tingler, and the
Yeah.
seats
John
would.
Goodman did a
Yes,
documentary movie.
and it's loosely based off of the William Castle
Yeah, the seats would
character
vibrate, and it was like,
Matinee.
yeah, matinee, and the
Yeah.
seats would vibrate, and
Yep.
what was like, I guess they called it 4D, you
Yeah.
know, with the smell, and you feel the
Yep.
mist of rain, which is really popular in Disney rides now,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Universal has a couple of the like I went on the Shrek one and it was like 4D. So
got you.
and some theaters do somewhat of 4D, like for the really big action movies. I think like the old Town 16, the Frank's Town
Hmm.
16 before they went out of business, they had something like where you could buy special seats and like they would vibrate and when there was like
Right.
explosions
I
and
don't
stuff.
remember that. That's cool because
That
you know
was
that was my
yeah.
theater of choice, you know,
Yeah,
back
that
in
was
the
my
day.
theater choice too. Long live
Yeah.
Frank. No longer there.
No, no longer there. Just
But
faded
that's
memory.
where you saw Friday Part Two when they had their drive-in, correct?
Yes, I saw original Friday 13th and Part Two back to back. It was a double
Nice,
feature. I
nice.
think it was the release of Friday the 13th Part Two that weekend, but they also featured it with the original
Okay.
Friday the 13th. So it was a double feature, and that was probably my first R rating movie that I well that I saw legally. You know.
Right. Now I'm looking at the creature behind you, and for its time, I think they were years ahead of like special effects or for practical. Like it
Yeah.
looks good for being a 1954
Yeah,
movie.
that if you read the background of the designer, and I don't think she got screen credit.
She didn't. A
That was
guy.
a yeah, a guy got it. It was a
Yeah.
woman designer who made that. And if I could remember correctly, I don't think she did she have makeup background, or was this something
I
new?
think she did have like background, but it's in the 50s and unfortunately the women took a back seat and guys took the credit. But I think it was years later when she finally got the
Recognition?
recognition that she deserved.
Yeah.
Did you share it on the page? Because I came across it somewhere on Facebook yesterday. It was just like I wasn't sure if it was on our page or just a random post somewhere.
I think I may have shared it to
Yeah, where
build up
she's
the
holding like the bust of the creature.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the work that must have been involved to sculpt that because and the materials used back then, I can't imagine. I'm sure they were feeding him air left and right underwater because I don't know what the buoyancy was like because I think the fins were legit fins.
Yeah. Well,
Uh
there was two actors that played the creature. There was the actor for the underwater scene who's still alive, and then the
okay.
other actor who did the land stuff. And speaking
Okay.
of, let's go into land stuff before we get into the nitty gritty.
Right,
Like,
right, right.
like whenever you would see his claw, they would have that music play,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Especially the opening scene when they
Yeah.
found the fossilized hand,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the build up right there was really, really cool. There was some campiness to it,
Yeah.
but that was old Hollywood. And I
Yeah.
guess for horror, and if you watch a lot of the acting in these films, they're almost theatrical or Shakespearean in some sense, especially Dracula. But
Yeah.
the over dramatics and stuff like that, I think a lot of these actors, you know, they most of them got their start on Broadway,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's where Bela Lugosi came from. Yeah.
you have to
Yep.
be over theatric, you know,
Yeah.
in some of those
Yeah.
senses. And you could see that with the buildup. And then I love the captain of the boat. The I think he was either Cuban, or he was of Latin descent. But
Yeah.
I loved he was like the comic relief.
Yeah.
He was so great.
Yeah, they could get
Um,
like if they were to remake it today, they'd probably get like a Spanish Jack Black type
yeah,
character to play him.
Louis
Louis
Branch.
Guzman, that's what they would get, Louis Guzman.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
No, but I even the underwater filming in this movie was spectacular. I mean,
Yeah.
for the equipment back then, I can't imagine how hard that may have been because the diving equipment looks
Hmm.
so ancient,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they even talked about, well, so he wouldn't get the bends. The lead actress said he has to adjust to
Hmm.
the coming up too fast. So they went in to explain all those things in the movie, but I couldn't imagine back then. There wasn't a lot of underwater filming for
Yeah.
that
And
era,
we'll get into like the planned remakes, but I just want to talk, when we get to that part, I want to talk about with all the technological advancements, they can make a really sick
Yeah,
creature
yeah,
movie.
they could.
Yeah.
I think my favorite, talking about, movies that try to emulate or try to be like the creature from the Black Lagoon. If you look at Monster Squad and
Oh, that was the best rendition of
that
the
Gill man
creature.
and that, I said if they made a remake, they should just, I think, and that was what's his name? Baker may have designed those
Rick
monsters.
Baker. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that was a phenomenal. I think they called him the Gill Man in that movie,
Yes, yeah, they did because I
and
don't think they could get for some reason they couldn't get the creature for whatever reason, even
yeah,
though it
but
was made by I think it was made by Universal. Well, it had been made by Universal to to use
use
the
those, yeah,
names. Yeah,
the
but do you
names.
think if they remade the Monster Squad, do you think it would have not that it made an impact back then, but a lot of the younger generation don't really know the Universal monsters.
I think if they approached something like Monster Squad, it would go over really well if they did it like the crew, the kids from Stranger Things or
Yeah, yeah,
that type of lovable characters,
yeah,
or Goonies, or even if they did a Goonies over. I think a lot of these movies that are rebooting, they're missing a lot of that quality of relationship, especially when there's kids involved, and
right.
I think Stranger Things tapped into that really, really well. But to do that today, yeah, sure, you could throw these great costumes and together and do some great, but you need a solid team of actors that work well together, and I think
Right.
that's what made Stranger Things so good. I know I'm going off topic, but it all relates to horror in the end.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I think a lot of these films are missing that substance,
right.
because they're always so quick to, horror, in your face, blood, guts, gore, which is fine. You got your Terrifier 2 coming out this year, and I'm sure they'll give you plenty of that.
Yeah.
But I like more of substance stories, and I
Exactly.
think that's what I loved about Creature from the Black Lagoon. They really built up characters base too. I mean, each
Hmm.
one of those characters in Creature, they had their stories, their
Yeah.
own little stories, and then they all fused together to go on this archaeological, or I think that was what they called it, an archaeological dig to look for
Hmm.
these remains of the creature that had passed
Yeah.
centuries.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into pre-production and all that good stuff, and feel free to interject. All right,
Okay.
so Creature from the Black Lagoon, excuse me, is a 1954 American black and white 3D monster horror film produced by William Adlin and directed by Jack Arnold. No relation to wasn't Jack Arnold? No, I'm thinking Arnold Palmer, the Ice Tea, from a
Are you
screenplay.
thirsty?
I am actually thirsty. From Harry Essex and Arthur Ross, and a story by Maurice Zim. It stars Richard Carlson, Julie Adams, Richard Dennings, Antonio Monrero, Nestor Paiva, and Whit Bissell. The film plot follows a group of scientists who encounter a piscine amphibious humanoid in the waters off of the Amazon or Florida. The creature, also known as the Gill Man, was played by Ben Chapman on land and by Rico Browning underwater, who's still alive and he still goes to cons. I think he was at Monster Mania a couple Monster Manias ago.
Yeah.
It was produced and distributed by Universal International. Creature from the Black Lagoon premiered in Detroit on February 12th, 1954, and was released on a regional basis, opening on various dates. I wonder why they did it back then like that. I guess because there wasn't like enough reels. Like, it's very weird.
That could have been, but a lot of these theaters were private. Well, they're all privately owned. I don't know. AMC, it may have just been like a mess up on the calendars, like things overlapping. They're like,
Hmm.
well, we've given, and this was way before, accessibility to internet and probably collaborating properly. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
funny. I didn't know this was filmed in 3D originally
yeah.
because
Neither did
I had
I.
no idea.
I didn't know until well, I didn't know it was 3D at all. And then as I was rewatching, it was the first time I watched it in 30 some years, and I'm like, this looks like 3D effects. And then when I was doing my notes, I'm like, oh shit, it was 3D.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
because watching it on you know weekend TV and stuff like that, it kind of makes sense now because of, like I said before, the hand coming out.
yeah.
But you know what? They did it well if you compare it to like Jaws 3D, where it's like
Oh,
obvious, or Friday the 13th 3D,
yeah,
obvious,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
but
was subtle,
it was
not like in
very
your face.
subtle,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
like that because
yeah,
that's how I always felt 3D should be. Like,
yeah.
like remember the yo-yo in
Yep.
Friday the 13th?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
I was like,
the stick bat,
right, or the
Yeah.
snake on the string.
Yeah. Well, now watching like Friday Part 3 and Blu-ray, like you see like Rick's eye, like, not
Yeah,
that you couldn't see the string before, but even more so.
yeah.
Yeah, so as we discussed, this was filmed in 3D and originally projected by the polarized light method. The audience were viewers with gray polarizing filters similar to the viewers most commonly used today. Because the brief 1950s 3D film fad had peaked in the mid 1953 and was fading fast in early 54, many audience actually saw the film flat in 2D. Typically, the film was thrown in 3D in larger downtown theaters and flat in smaller neighborhoods. In 1975, Creature from the Black Lagoon was re-released to theaters in the red and blue glasses anaglyph 3D format, which was also used for a 1980 home video release on beta and VHS video cassettes. So that's probably when you saw it, like in 75-ish, I guess, right?
Um, I would have been 69. So I would have been 6 years old now. So it may
Okay.
have been, yeah, it may have been something that theater. There was this old theater. It's not around anymore. I think it was called the Bijou, and it was on the back road going to Ocean City, New Jersey. Trying to think of the name of the road.
Really?
There is
I only knew of one theater in Summers Point, and that was the Circle Theater
Yeah,
over
no,
here.
this was actually a really small theater near Fire Road back there. And it was in a
Wow.
shopping center. It was in a
Okay.
shopping center. And it only played one movie at a time. And
Oh, wow.
it was always retro films.
That's cool.
And so it had to be early to mid 80s. It closed soon after that. I remember it used to be near an old Cumberland Farms
Okay.
that back
Okay.
there, which is a
Oh,
chain.
I know right where you're talking about then. Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah.
theater. There's a shopping center over to the left. There was a
Yes.
theater in that building.
Oh,
I think it.
shit.
I think it's a quick med, one of those walk-in
Okay.
medical.
Oh, wow. I
Now,
never knew that. Wow. Okay.
yeah, and I saw it there. And strangely enough, like I said, I had no idea it was originally done in 3D.
Yeah.
But I guess in all the Universal monster movies, that was the only one done in 3D.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think they
You
wanted
know?
to experiment with it, and they did it too late as the fad was, it died
Yeah,
out.
no, but like I said, they did it tastefully and it was
Hmm.
done really well.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting piece of history I did not know for that.
Yeah,
So that's
awesome.
cool.
All right. So production, producer William Allen was attending a 1941 dinner party during the filming of Citizen Kane. He actually had a role where he played a reporter. When Mexican cinematographer Gabriel Figueroa told him about the myth of a race of half fish, half human creatures in the Amazon River, Allen wrote story notes titled The Sea Monster 10 years later, using Beauty and the Beast as inspiration. I think just about all Universal monster movies had a Beauty and the Beast inspiration.
Scenario. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
look at Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom
I
of the Opera,
mean,
Dracula.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, a heroine and
mhm.
a hero, and yeah, I
Yeah.
that makes that. I mean, it's like the base to pretty much
Yeah.
every, you know,
Yeah.
those classic horror movies.
Yeah. So in December of 1952, Maurice Zimm expanded this into a treatment, which Harry Essex and Arthur Ross rewrote as the Black Lagoon following the success of the 3D film House of Wax in 1953. Jack Arnold was hired to direct the film in the same format. The designer of the approved Gill-Man was Disney animator Millicent Patrick, though her role was deliberately downplayed by makeup artist Bud Westmore, who for half a century received sole credit for the creature's conception.
Sad.
Jack Cavan, who worked on The Wizard of Oz and made prosthetics for amputees during World War II, created the bodysuit, while Chris Mueller Jr. sculpted the head. Ben Chapman portrayed the Gill-Man for the majority of the scenes shot at Universal City, California. The on-water scenes were filmed at Park Lake on the Universal backlot. The costume made sitting impossible for Chapman for the 14 hours each day that he wore, and it was overheated easily. Well, we know how that feels.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Due to these difficulties, Chapman often stayed in the studio's backlot, like frequently requesting to be hosed down. He also could not see very well while wearing the headpiece, which caused him to scrape Julie Adams' head against the wall when carrying her in the grotto scenes. Rico Browning played the Gillman in the underwater shots, which were filmed by the second unit in Waukeula Springs, Florida. While filming underwater, Browning reportedly held his breath for up to 4 minutes at a time. In a 2013 interview, Browning clarified, "If you're not doing anything at all, 4 minutes is possible, but not if you're moving in the water. If you're swimming fast or fighting, you use up a lot of oxygen, and it cuts it down to at least 2 minutes." According
Right.
to according to Browning, during shooting one day, a snapping turtle bit off the foot of the Gilman costume, and he had to chase the turtle to retrieve it. Oh man,
Thank God that was all that he bit off. Could you
yeah,
imagine if he
and
hit some?
actually, there's a bit of trivia that I didn't put in the notes, but when he came up from out of the water, he had to go to the bathroom, and I think he swam a little bit too far offset because it was like a beach, and he came out of the
Uh,
water, and there was like a mom and daughter sitting on the beach.
I wish I was there to see that.
Yeah, that would have
But
been
if I
great.
remember correctly, there was two suits. There was one for land filming and one for
Yes, they had two different
for
suits.
two different
Yes.
suits. And there's a slight variation if you watch. I guess if you're a fan, if you watch it enough, you may pick those up.
Yeah, because the director, I think it was set up to where when he did breathe underwater for, I don't know, an exhale, it was supposed to go out throughout the gills, but
Gotcha.
it went out like in some scenes you'll see it come out the mouth or something.
I think
Um,
the breathing part when he was on land, the actual gills moving was like mind blowing for me.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know if they do use air bladders for that,
right. They
but
probably, yeah, they probably
it
did.
was
Yeah,
really really cool when he was breathing. I
yeah.
remember that being scared of that way. I was like, oh my God, this thing could walk on land.
Right, right. All right, so we're going to get into the plot. So we are in the Amazon, uh and there's an expedition going on, and they uncover fossilized evidence, a skeletal hand with web fingers, which I thought was pretty cool looking.
Yeah,
Uh
I mean, imagine having that as a prop.
that
I
would be
would love to
cool.
have
I
that.
wonder if they still have some of the, but probably not, like
I'm
that prop.
sure. Yeah, that was probably gone. And back
Yeah.
then, those type of things weren't sought after till almost like 50 years later. But I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some guy out there sculpting them and selling them on Etsy.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So we find a skeletal hand with web fingers from the Devonian period that provides a direct link between land and sea animals. Expedition leader Dr. Carl Maya orders his two assistants to stay in camp while he visits the Marine Biology Institute. Carl reunites with his friend and former student. Now, I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong. Ichthyologist. I guess I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a
Yeah,
made up word.
it's a
uh,
probably.
Dr. David Reed. David works at an aquarium in California, but more recently, he has been a guest at Carl's Institute in Brazil to study lungfish. David persuades his boss, the financially minded Dr. Mark Williams, to fund a return expedition to the Amazon to look for the remainder of the
Which
skeleton.
which I would thought was hilarious in the movie because the guy was like, "Yeah, sure, I got that kind of money." And it was like
Yeah,
there was no
yeah.
thought out process about going down to look for they're just going by this guy and like, "Yeah, sure, we'll just use the
Yeah,
money and
in
we'll go
today's
down."
standards, there would be like that whole scenario
Board
set up.
meetings,
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
board meetings.
yeah.
But
Have
I
Samuel L. Jackson as like the liaison, like in Deep Blue Sea.
yeah, yeah, I just love like, yeah, here you go. Let's go on
Yeah,
an expedition and look for a fish man.
yeah. Soon after
Remains.
Carl leaves camp, a piscine amphibious humanoid, a living member of the same species from which the fossil originated, becomes curious about the expedition's camp. When its sudden appearance frightens the assistants, they panic and attack, and in response, the enraged creature kills them both. And I just love movies of that era because like the one, I think it was just they weren't to me they didn't look Spanish, like two guys with just a good tan.
And a
And-
bad
oh,
wigs.
had like the
Well,
Sonny Bono
I
wig
think
going on.
I think they borrowed that from the Three Stooges set because they all look like Mo.
Yeah,
Like I guess they felt like, oh, this is what all the indigenous tribes look like down there,
yeah.
and they just took a wig and they bowl cut it and slapped it on these guys.
Oh
That's
man.
hilarious. And then gave them really bad Spanish accents.
Yes, yes. Well, it's like Ted White when he was like in like the stunt days, like in the 50s. And I have his biography, and there's a picture of him playing a Native American. Oh my
Oh wow,
god.
yeah. That wouldn't fly these days. It's like,
No, no, not at
you've
all.
got to do it 100% accurate.
Yeah, yep,
If not, you
yeah.
it's over. It's over. Pull the
The
plug.
the group goes aboard the tramp steamer Rita, captained by Krusty Lucas. The expedition consists of David, Carl, and Mark, David's girlfriend and colleague Kay Lawrence, who is the love interest of the creature, and another scientist, Dr. Edwin Thompson. When they arrive at camp, they discover Carl's assistants have been killed while he was away. Lucas suggests it was likely done by a jaguar, but the others are unsure. A further excavation of the area where Carl found the fossil turns up nothing. Mark is ready to give up their search, but David suggests that perhaps thousands of years ago, the part of the embankment containing the rest of the skeleton fell into the water and was washed downriver, broken up by the current. Carl says the tributary empties into a lagoon. Lucas calls it the Black Lagoon, a paradise from which no one has ever returned. The scientists decide to risk it, unaware that the amphibious gill man that killed Carl's assistants had been watching them. Taking notice of the beautiful Kay, the creature follows the Rita all the way downriver to the Black Lagoon. Once the expedition arrives, David and Mark go diving to collect rock samples from the lagoon floor. After they return, Kay goes swimming and is stalked underwater by the gill man, who then gets briefly caught in one of the ship's drag lines. Although it escapes, the creature leaves a claw behind in the net, revealing its existence. And it's funny how she's swimming. He's just like,
Yeah,
under
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was very what's the word? It looked like a dance. It
Yeah.
was really well done, and for him
Yeah.
not being able to see, I guess he just got her silhouette from the sun to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like we were saying, it's like King Kong and Fay
Mm-hmm.
Ray,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
but I think that's what made this film a little bit more interesting because it was a non-speaking creature. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein at least spoke,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what made it really, really appealing because when you have a non-speaking uh, creature like that, you've got to have a good cast to fill in that void and make it a little bit more menacing, I guess. Him just being a being or
Right.
a vision, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Okay, so subsequent encounters with the Gilman claim the lives of the Lucas crew members before the creature is captured and locked in a cage aboard the Rita. It escapes during the night, attacking Edwin, who was guarding it. Kay smashes the creature with a lantern, driving it off, but Edwin is severely injured. Following this incident, David decides they should return to civilization. Mark, who is obsessed with capturing or killing the creature, objects. As the Rita tries to leave, they find the Gillman has blocked the lagoon's entrance with fallen logs. While the others attempt to remove the logs, Mark is mauled to death while trying to capture the creature single-handed underwater. The Gillman then abducts Kay and takes her to its cavern lair. David, Lucas, and Carl chase after the creature, and Kay is ultimately rescued. The creature is riddled with bullets before retreating to the lagoon, where its body sinks into the watery depths. So
Right.
obviously they left it up for a sequel.
Yeah, which they did.
Yeah, they did 2 sequels, and
Yeah.
the third one, you might know this, but I believe it was Clint Eastwood's first on-screen role.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Was he a bartender? No, what was
I think I don't know if he was like vet, like it's because they take him to like a SeaWorld type place, and I
right.
think he was like a doctor or something.
Okay, he
I've
was
never
in white.
seen it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
remember.
I've never seen it, so but I know he
I
was in
saw I
it.
saw an excerpt or a picture of him, and it looked like he was in a bar or something, bartending scene. But
Okay.
the sequels were weird. Didn't they try to humanize
Humanize
him?
him.
And
Yeah, so they
yeah, they
removed his
removed his
gills.
gills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looked. I didn't enjoy it. It was really. I don't think I've watched it all the way through, but
I think that's where Planet of the Apes took their cue in the third one, where the apes land on Earth and they're like they like humanize them, take them shopping like on Rodeo
right,
Drive.
right, 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 right.
So
No, but
yes,
if you listen to what you were just reading, and I'm playing things in my head, it the modern day take of this was a reboot. If you think about it, was Anaconda. I mean, if you listen and you watch that movie, I mean, obviously the creature is the snake,
hmm
but there's still a lot of references from Creature from the Black Lagoon in Anaconda. You know, I never
yeah,
put it together until you were telling the the plot and what have
yeah,
you.
it's a different way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but
That
it was
movie's so bad. That
oh, it
CG
is.
snake.
Oh my God. And then what's his name trying to pull off I think he
Oh,
was
John Voight
wasn't he
trying to be like
Bolivian
Latin
or
or something. And
Uruguayan?
the way he
Yeah.
would like suck his teeth, like when he was looking at Jennifer Lopez, I'm like, that is so creepy.
Yeah, he was swarmy in that. Well,
Yeah.
but it's like,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that was
but there's
like
a lot.
Eric
I
Stoltz's last film.
yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Not like The Fly 2 did him any good.
I'm like one of the few people that actually like to fly too.
Did you? Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tried. I tried.
Yeah, nowhere near as good as the first one, but
Right.
you know,
Right.
but
But going back to this and seeing it after so many years, I actually revisited and watched because they're on do I say it right? Is it Tubby or Tubi? I don't
Tubi.
even know.
Tubi.
Tubi. I
Tubby's
watched
how I'm
Franken.
feeling right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's the weekend,
Yeah.
because I eat this. I don't know if you could see it.
Your bootios, your boo berry.
Blueberry. I eat this like snacks because it is spooky season, and I
Yeah.
pull. I had this, and I had the fruit group, which is really my favorite. I haven't gotten the Frankenberry, and I'm not a Count Chocula fan, but
Okay.
it's that time of year,
It is that
So
time of year, yes.
Tubby is okay between pumpkin spice and what have
Yeah.
you.
I had
But
yet to get the ginger snaps. I haven't gotten them yet.
oh, I was just down there last weekend and I looked in Wawa. They weren't there yet because they usually
Wow.
have them in Wawa.
Yeah.
So I guess they're running late with the ginger snaps or
Yeah.
the spiced wafers.
Yeah.
They call them.
Yeah.
They're a South Jersey thing along with pork roll and scrapple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I went, like I was saying, I went back and I watched the Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, and both fantastic films. And I now I want to revisit all of them.
Yeah, well, I actually I got the first I had told you I was going to get the first set of the Universal Monsters on 4K.
Right, right.
Which the only thing I don't like about it, as opposed to when they released it in the early 2000s, when they released them in the early 2000s, they would put their sequels with them. This one is just the movie itself,
That's
but
good. That's good.
yeah, but the second wave is coming out in a couple weeks, and it has the creature, and I forget who else is on there, but I do have that on pre-order. But yeah,
Cool.
so speaking with the sequels, so in 1955 we had Revenge of the Creature, which was also filmed in 3D in hopes of reviving the format. And then actually it was the creature, so I'm not sure. So I think Eastwood was in Revenge. Creature Walks Among Us is when they
Right,
humanize him. That came out in
right,
56.
right.
But they did it in 2D. And then he appeared as a comedic appearance with Abbott and Costello, an episode of the Colgate Comedy Hour prior to the film's release. The
And
appearances
and
Huh?
the Munsters and the
Yeah, which
Munsters.
I want to go back and find that episode
Yeah,
because
I remember that
I don't
because
remember that
I am
episode.
I'm a diehard. Like if I have to choose between Adam's Family and the Munsters, it was always the Munsters for
Hmm.
me. And I remember when he came on, I believe it was a wedding. There was a wedding scene, and he showed up in a tuxedo. And if I can remember, it was a top hat, and some dialogue was back and forth, and then Herman with his slapped him on the back, and all this water just splashed up
Oh,
behind.
that's funny.
Like yeah, it was really. I don't think he had any dialogue,
Right.
but it was the actual costume that they used in the movie, and they brought it in for that, and it was a really quick scene. It was towards the end of that episode. I can't
Well,
remember,
with
but
the remakes, they actually changed his eyes because the actor said how hard it was to
let's
see
see.
through.
Gotcha.
So they made it more of a googly fisheye look. So if it looks kind of
Oh,
wonky, that's why. So we have some canceled remakes. And in 1982, John Landis wanted Jack Arnold to direct a remake of the film, and Nigel Neal was commissioned to write the screenplay. Neal completed the script, which involved a pair of preachers, one destructive and the other calm and sensitive, being persecuted by the United States Navy. A decision to make the film in 3D led to the remake being canceled by producers at Universal, both for budgetary concerns and to avoid a clash with Jaws 3D. uh,
what was that era? Like it's just that was late. Was that mid to late '80s? I can't
yeah,
remember, but
yeah, yep,
and
83. Yep.
the sequels were coming out, and they were just so horrible. But there's cult followings for a lot of those
Yes.
sequels, and
I mean,
people
I would
love it
love to go see like Friday 13th Part 3 like in a theater in the
in 3D.
traditional 3D. And some theater houses do that. Now this would have been really cool if in 1992 John Carpenter was developing the remake at Universal. Can you imagine a Carpenter creature?
Yeah, I mean, everything that I feel. No, this is my personal opinion. He's done well, pretty much. Has been gold. If you look at the thing and
Yeah.
even the campy ones, Big Trouble Little China, and
Escape
They
from New
Live,
York. Yeah.
Escape from New York, They Live. But he did it in a way where I felt it was a little bit more accepted,
Right.
the
Yeah.
campiness. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen that. I
Yeah.
would have loved to have seen
Yeah, so unfortunately, the project never got the green lit, and Rick Baker was going to do the special effects. So reboot, how Hollywood
which
loves to
which
do.
he I mean, if you going back to he didn't get to do that, but he did Monster
Yeah,
Squad. So I
yeah.
guess that was him finally um making his spin on it. And because
Hmm.
that Wolfman
That
in
Wolfman was
that
awesome.
that
I wish they released like figures from the Monster Squad. That would have been really
I
cool.
almost feel like the reboot of the Wolfman looked a lot like the Wolfman in a sense, with that rounded shoulder
Yes.
of the Monster Squad Wolfman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I like the gray hair. It was gray in
Yeah.
color. It was just it was phenomenal transformation scene too.
Yeah, and if they do make figures, I'm surprised they haven't done like NECA hasn't
I
done like
Yeah, I don't wonder why they haven't jumped onto that yet.
yeah,
You know,
but I would love to own the Wolfman figure. That would have been
and the
really
Gill
cool.
Man.
And the
Yeah,
Gill
yeah,
Man.
yeah.
Everyone
Yeah,
except for the Mummy. I didn't really care for the Mummy though.
no, and the Frankenstein he kind of made comical because
Well, yeah, it was Tom Noonan,
yeah,
which
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was Frank. No, he wasn't Frankenstein in Young Frankenstein. What was he in? Oh, he was the killer in the original Red Dragon. The
Oh,
yeah,
right, right,
yeah,
right, right, right.
yeah. But
Before
yeah,
the remake with what's his name?
uh
'Cause they
with
redid
Ed
Red Dragon.
Norton, and I forget
Ray Fiennes,
Ray Fiennes.
which
Yes.
was also a phenomenal film.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
phenomenal.
Speaking of Monster Squad, not they're going to be two of the actors are going to be at Monster Mania at the Oaks, PA in November. Dracula and Phoebe. So, but I would love to
Didn't
meet.
one of them passed away? Didn't they?
Yeah, Horace.
Oh
Yeah, he had an asthma attack on college. He was in college and had an asthma attack and
yeah,
died. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, what did they call him? Lardass?
Uh,
What the hell did they
no,
call him?
Lardass was from Stand By Me.
Stand by me. What the hell was his
Um,
name? They gave him a
I,
nickname. He's like, my name is Horace.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh man! But did you know
That was a
that
good.
the guy who played Dracula, his name's Duncan something. He wasn't the original cast for Dracula. It was actually Liam Neeson. Was originally
Oh.
cast. Yeah.
I guess a younger version I could see it, but what with what I know of him, like horror, I think of Darkman.
Yeah, yeah.
Which another.
Which is getting a reboot.
Is it really?
It is, yeah. But I would love for it to be straight up horror and not that Sam Raimi comical.
I think they were trying to do it like the comic book because it was originally a comic book, wasn't it?
Oh, I didn't know that if it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was a comic book. So that campiness of that red flashing behind the head, kind of like Creep
Mm-hmm.
Show.
Yeah, yeah,
When,
yeah,
I think they were trying to bring into that comic book
yeah.
effect when he
Okay.
was having those mood changes. But
Right,
don't
right.
don't don't quote me on that. I could have swore it was
Okay.
a graphic
Or
novel.
maybe they did like a one-off to follow the movie or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So Universal, as early as 2014, were developing a shared universe of the rebooted modern day versions of the classic monsters. Unfortunately, it began with the 2017 The Mummy with Tom Cruise, which was god awful, and was to be followed by the remake, The Bride of Frankenstein. But yeah, that Tom Cruise movie. Oh God, was it
That
awful?
was I didn't think I even watched all the
It
way
was it
through.
was it was
I felt he was trying to be himself in Mission Impossible with Mummy
pretty
infused in
much
that.
that's what it was. Now, they missed the mark. Like they should have, if they wanted to do that, they should have did it with like the Brendan Fraser mummies. They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
good.
yeah. They were
Yeah,
good. They were
yeah.
good.
Um,
Cool.
so they were going to make a Creature from Black Lagoon, but of course that got canned. But we did sort of get a creature-esque film in The Shape of Water by, I think it was Guillermo del
Yeah,
Toro. Not, was it
yeah,
Guillermo del Toro?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which was kind of
Which
like
was
bestiality.
it was Yeah, it was weird.
It
Well,
was.
his films are like that. I mean, I like Pan's Labyrinth. I loved Hellboy. I liked. Wasn't that his
Yeah.
films too?
Yeah,
And
yeah. I never
The
saw Pan's
Devil's
Labyrinth.
very good.
Okay.
Spanish subtitles.
Okay.
And there's another phenomenal one that's haunting his earlier stuff, The Devil's Backbone, which I
Heard of
highly
it.
recommend.
Never saw it.
I,
Okay.
I I highly recommend. It's really creepy and it's ghost paranormal related.
Oh, okay.
But it all takes place in Mexico at an orphanage, and
Oh, yeah, can't get any scarier than that.
yeah, very,
So,
very, very good. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I watched the movie, um, but that's what I thought too when I first saw him. Like, this is the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Right. So
So,
normally I would talk about trivia, but we've already talked about that. His name was Uncle Gilbert in the
uh,
Munsters. Gilbert.
Gilbert, get it, got it. Gilbert,
All
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
So any closing thoughts on the creature, Dave?
No, like I said, um, this is all about the viewers on our other social media group, which is Facebook. We have our page there, and we will do these polls uh, pretty much all the time to let you choose what we should view and review.
Yeah.
Choose, view, and review. That's what we're calling this. And
And we're
it,
going
it,
to do
it
like
makes
maybe just like 2 episodes a month. It's not going to be weekly because we both have
right.
busy 9 to 5 jobs.
Exactly.
But do we have a winner for our next one? Did you look at the final poll for Halloween franchise?
I think it is, yeah. So we did the Halloween franchise, and I think it's the original. But I'll have to check again. Actually, part three was a runner-up,
I wish we
which I
got
was
yeah.
hoping,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
was hoping for because I've already watched it for the season because I like to
Okay.
watch it once,
Yeah.
and it's such a great story if you get past the whole, where's Michael Myers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it's such a great 80s film that it took a long time for me to appreciate and really like that film. And I think when I was a kid, it was one of those first five films that either was Prism or HBO viewed.
Oh, Prism. You just
Remember
brought back so
Prism?
many memories. Yeah.
Prism, when Prism first came out, they had like 10 movies, and
Yeah.
Halloween 3 was one of them. And it was like every other hour on the hour. And I would watch it every other on the hour, and I could, relay the words and the whole script and dialogue and everything. But as I got older, I was like, yeah, this is such a great movie. But then as I got even more older, I was like, this is a great movie. It's
Yeah.
one of those things I've
Come on, you
had.
got the suave Tom Atkins in it.
Yeah, the only man that could take his shirt off and get away with it with a dad bod before dad bods were big.
Well, it was the 80s though, so
And that 70s porn stash that he
yeah.
sported, in the 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
But
um
he still looks good. You see him at the cons.
yeah,
I want to get a really good G Clay print of some type, and have him autograph that. I hope he does a couple more cons before retirement.
right. Yeah, because I'm upset because Dick Warlock is retiring from conventions. He played Michael in part 2, and I would love
Too.
to add him to my collection.
And
So
he was one of the henchmen in Halloween 3.
was he really?
Yeah, he was out of
Oh,
mask.
oh,
Yeah,
nice.
if you look, he's got, because they duplicated the henchman. So
Yeah,
one moment, Atkins kills him, and then he comes back again because they're like
they're
these
like androids. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, he is in Halloween 3, but out of Myers
Oh, that's
costume.
cool.
He's
Nice.
in one of the suits. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
for the month of October, we're going to review Halloween 78, and then Dave wants to review the Monsters, Rob Zombie. So,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah. And we got interviews coming
yes,
up, some good
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
We'll have to do. It's really based around Friday the 13th Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to get into it because that's a whole long other conversation. But yeah, so keep an eye out on when we're going to do those on our Facebook page. Are we doing this on Instagram too? I don't have an Instagram account for this, so
If you want, I mean, I feel like Instagram, it's always hit or miss. Like I have
yeah.
a better
So what?
following on Facebook, so we can
Yeah,
just
I do
keep it
too. I
simple for
mean,
now.
we're few but mighty. I think we just hit 600 this weekend, so
And
we're growing
that's
in
good though.
numbers.
In a couple of months,
Yeah,
and
I'd rather it be. It was the same with his name was Jason. I'd rather it be a small, humble group,
yep.
instead of like I'm
And
not.
we do get a lot of interaction too with our posts, which is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
For me, it's about quality, not quantity.
right. Exactly.
Now, if you
Exactly.
would have talked to me about doing this 20 when I was 25, it would be, a different story.
Yeah. Numbers,
But
numbers, numbers.
exactly.
But yeah,
But no,
so what is the name of our
uni
Facebook page, Dave?
it is the third channel, Home for Horror.
Thanks for watching and or listening. This was our review of The Creature from the Black Lagoon, where you choose, we view, and review. We hope you enjoyed this wonderful first episode. When I get to talking with Dave, we start off with one thing and we go off left field, but then we, that's what friends do. So this will be a monthly format, and our next episode that we're going to do is Halloween 1978. And it was a close one between that one and part 3, but thankfully no one chose Resurrection, because I would have just ended the podcast right there. And
Can we talk about Halloween Ends?
we could do like a live video or a quick,
wow. Well, I mean that, they had me at 2018. They had me. I liked it. I didn't love it. I watched it again. I learned to love it. And then when we went as a group to see Halloween Ends, we were like,
yeah,
did they put a Michael Myers mask on Jason Voorhees? Because the body
yeah,
count, it's
yeah,
never been about, again, it's never been about quantity. It's been quality for Michael Myers. And that's what I loved about the original Halloween.
But
So, but that's something.
when you put that dollar sign,
Oh, yeah.
that
That's
ruins
Blumhouse.
everything.
It's Blumhouse.
Yeah.
And I don't
But
poo-poo Blumhouse entirely, but they're not up there in rankings for me. I think I said to you last night, A24
yeah,
is my my favorite now. That's a whole nother conversation. I saw Pearl last night, and the prequel to X,
right.
and I was blown away.
Yeah,
Phenomenal movie.
we'll have to do a review, once I see Pearl, and then we can talk about X and Pearl, and then the upcoming Maxine, Triple X Maxine.
Yeah, Ty
So
West, I have to
yeah,
say, is my all-time favorite director for modern genre, modern horror now.
right.
but it two different films, same director, totally two different feels. Like wow,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you with it was really really well done. I really
Good.
really enjoyed it.
Good.
So,
So
but we'll
like I
talk
said,
about that another
yeah, like I said
conversation.
earlier, we go off target, we go to
That's
the right, we
horror.
go to
That's
the
horror.
yeah. So thanks for listening, watching, and we will see you next time.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.